I went to the same place I was in Germany when I was like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And I won't lie, the place has changed. Okay, the place has changed very much. You can see really the difference between the culture of the German people and the immigrants, and it's so conflicting to me. So I wanted to ask, um, if the IRGC, if the regime will fall, how involved are they in all the immigration situation in Europe and the sleeping cells in Europe? How do you think it will change the face of Europe if the regime will fall?
So again, people could correct me in the chat, and also if you put a two in the chat to correct me about this. But my understanding is that the Islamic regime in Iran is mostly takes advantage of the immigration rather than like indirectly they cause the immigration, but they so the reason why they indirectly cause the immigration is because of a lot of the immigration from the Middle East to Europe is because of the chaos and instability in the Middle East. And the main source of chaos and instability in the Middle East is the Islamic Republic, right? But my understanding is that once all of that immigration happened, they looked at all the Muslims in Europe and like, holy shit, this is a fertile ground for us to take advantage of and recruit from. Um, it wasn't like the origin were like less chaos, like the chaos that they caused in the Middle East was not with the idea in mind that let's make this cause migration to the Middle East and then invest in it, because the chaos they created in the Middle East was mostly with the intentions of creating their own pan-Islamic Shia empire in the Middle East. That was just a side product that now they're trying to take advantage of and going to that Islamic population in Europe and in North America to now recruit for their what they call the Palestinian cause or their axis of resistance. So they come after in the recruiting phase rather than the causing the migration phase, right? They they do cause migration on purpose from Iran to Europe and North America, like not from the entire of the Middle East, but from Iran, but not the Durka Durka version. Okay, but mostly the anti-regime people, and they like anti-regime people leaving Iran because they think that they used to, they by mistake they thought that they would be less of a problem to deal with if they just leave Iran. So the regime actually doesn't like religious people leaving Iran because they want the demographic within Iran to be pro-regime. Uh, and I think if there's a mass migration, they like the anti-regime people. They used to like the anti-regime people to leave Iran because they were planning to do a demographic engineering in Iran where they replace the anti-regime, more secular-minded Iranians with more jihadi-minded people. They actually prefer for jihadi minded people to come to Iran rather than leave Iran so that they could create their own ummah inside Iran, right? And for many years they were actually saying like, if you don't like us, just fucking leave, like get the fuck out of here. If you don't like it, go to wherever you think is like your heaven or whatever. And they thought that was a good strategy because now Iranians leaving Iran who are anti-regime wouldn't be a problem to them. But this backfired significantly on them because they created a huge anti-regime diaspora that became very politically active in the countries that they were in, not only impacting politicians, making politicians noticing them as a voter bloc and becoming more anti the regime, but even some of them becoming politicians in those countries themselves. And we haven't even started. Like we're we are going to see this new generation of Iranians getting older. We're going to see a lot more Iranian politicians as these Iranians grow up in in Canada, United States, and Europe, becoming politicians who are anti-regimes in these countries. So the if you see right now, the Iranian people outside of Iran have been the main supporters of Iranian people inside Iran, and all of their protests and all of their media activity and all of they have done has made it impossible for the regime to try to distract Western media away from what's happening in Iran. And this has become a curse. Like this has the Iranian diaspora, the Iranian regime for years tried to make it seem like the Iranian people inside Iran and outside of Iran are divided. But now they see that they're more united than ever before. They were hoping that the Iranian people, when they leave Iran, they would just go live their lives and forget the Iranian people inside Iran. And nothing could actually be farther from what the Islamic Republic has been hoping for. The Iranian people outside of Iran never abandoned the Iranian people inside Iran, and they're continuing to fight for them. And this is when it comes to migration, this is what we're dealing with. I do think
Um,
that one last point, one last thought. I do think that when it comes to migration, if the Islamic Republic falls, we're going to not immediately, but over the years, we're going to see a lot more stability in the Middle East, and that will cause less migration coming from the Middle East to Western countries. But sorry, go ahead.
it's like I didn't talk just about the Iranians that go out of Iran. I'm talking about if you think it's more in Iran, the regime is more involved in the Islamic movement in Europe that are like the mosques there, who funded them, who leading them to the goal of becoming, uh, that Europe will become more Islamic and things like that. I mean, the
Yes.
overall picture, not just the
So,
Iranians.
so that's what I said. Like, when it comes to they take advantage of this fertile ground existing in Europe, and they feed into that and try to recruit them and organize them in favor of the regime. I wouldn't say more pro-Islamic. I would say more anti-Israeli, more anti-imperialist West, and more pro regime in Iran, um, without giving a shit if you're Islamic or not, right? That is the main.
But you think
So
the
more.
situation will get better? You think the
So,
situation will
so
get better after? Okay, sorry.
Of course, like they're the main sponsor of the Axis. The Islamic regime is the main funder of the Axis of Resistance. But I want people to understand that it's the Muslim Brotherhood or the Wahhabis who just want to they want to make people more Islamic. The Iranian regime doesn't give a shit if you're a Muslim or not, as long as you're anti-Israeli, as long as you're anti-imperialist West, you're on their side. The axis of resistance could be because you're Muslim, could be because you're a lefty, could be because whatever the fuck, like you could be your Tucker Carlson, your Candace Owens, your Nick Fuentes, your Democratic Socialists of America or whatever. All of them, they consider them all to be part of the axis of resistance. So Islam, the for them, Shia Islam, the Vilayat al-Faqih, the guardianship of the Jewish version of 12 Shia Islam, for them, that is a tool in their own backyard, in their neighborhood, for them to create their pan-Islamic Shia empire. But when it comes to Europe and North America, they don't give a shit about spreading Islam. They care more about spreading anti-Israeli, anti-imperialist West, so-called pro-Palestinian axis of resistance propaganda. That's what they care about the most. And yes, they're they're number one sponsor of the axis of resistance ideology. And if they're gone, this whole movement will collapse to a much less significant version of it.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
No,
that's
thank
answering.
you.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Armin. Just one thing that you pointed out about the unity of Iranians. They thought that Iranians are divided in political ideology. And then when we proved them wrong, then they went for division based on ethnicity. And then again, we proved them wrong because more people, more ethnic, with more diverse ethnic backgrounds, like myself, became more vocal about all of this. So I want to thank the separatists who made us appear, on the surface and speak up more. So thank you. All right, Shauna, you're next.
Yeah, I want to point out Armin kind of covered a lot of this, but just maybe from an American perspective and from maybe somebody who's coming from a Christian background. Well, there's two things. One is the majority of the immigration that I see from the Middle East seems to be predominantly Syrian, and then secondary the Indian subcontinent. So that is one factor, at least as far as who they want to deport. So who like more right wing people are complaining about seems to be mostly Syrians. And then the other thing too is one of the things that I hope Armin is correct about, because it is true that they don't, all they care about is being anti-Israel, but there's also the fact that as a response, when it comes to like beautiful secular Europe, at least from an atheist perspective, um, part of it is also what's happening is the kind of nationalistic Christian response, which Christian nationalism in the UK is slightly different than in America because they have different histories. That's a whole longer conversation. But to be brief, what concerns me and what I'm seeing is more of an authoritarian Christian right, which will be a harm to the secular movement and harmful to human liberty and freedom as well. Because if the Christian right response is in an authoritarian fashion, then that doesn't necessarily mean it might be less rapey than the Islamic version, but it's not going to be great either. So that's another factor to kind of consider, and that is something that I'm seeing is the authoritarianism on the right from the Christian right, both on pro and anti-Israel sides. It does seem to be growing, so that is a concern for us freedom lovers. So, yep, the end.
Thank you, Shauna. Uncle Coping, you're next. Also, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yes, it's been a while. I miss you all. Thank you very much. Now, you guys hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Yes,
So,
yes, we do.
Ray was wondering like how much effect can you have of the Islamic Republic? And I cannot answer that confidently, but I think it might be interesting to hear a little bit of how organized crime is rippling through in the Scandinavian peninsula. And we have named gangs called the Foxtrot gangs that are considered directly linked with the IRGC. Now, they are not the only ones. Like Armin, he mentioned also the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is, how do I explain this? It has radically amplified the scope of armaments, the type of armaments, and the amount and quantity of it. And we're seeing more and more grenade attacks and stuff like that going on in even in Norway, where they're employing what we call child torpedoes. So organized crime units would sometimes do that before, where they would employ minors in order because they have, well, they're cheaper, and they also don't take the same judicial repercussions. So what these foreign gangsters have done is basically do that on steroids and start arming them heavily and stuff like that. And it's of course, since we are talking about the criminal activity, this spans pretty much every single facet of it. One of the ways that they fuel this is of course through narcotics. And one thing that is quite problematic, like to kind of reveal how problematic this is. After COVID, the prices on pretty much everything around in Norway have risen from 50 to 100 to 200%, right? Now, peculiarly, alcohol has not risen that much, but that's as an aside, that's legal. But one thing that is the illegal stuff, now, like drugs, they have not gone up numerically. Actually, I should mention the alcohol just so you kind of get an idea. The price of alcohol has gone up only maximum 10%, which means that numerically it's gone up, but due to inflation, it's actually gone down. But drugs have not only gone down because they have gone down numerically. So even if they are on the same price now, which they're not, they're numerically lower, they would already be cheaper, meaning that the drug market is flooded. And this is because these foreign mafias have effectively supplanted all the indigenous mafias, if you like. And the problem with that, and this is where I'm going to wrap it up, as it pertains to the IRGC and the police, the politics, is the police. Because in Norway, we have a problem with the police not only cooperating with the mobsters, they are often the mobsters. And I know some Norwegians are going to balk at me saying that, but that's where I find that to be problematic, because the more influence they have through the police, the more there might be influence on our politics. And by having basically cornered the entire drug market and dominating in the illicit arms trade, And it goes on. The list just keeps going on. Sweden had last year 2 first months. Every single day they had a bombing attack, and we're not just talking Molotov cocktails. We're talking blasts, a single blast that took out several buildings. So, yeah, it's not Germany, but Germany is our bigger brother, so you can definitely extrapolate some effects over there. So I hope that was useful.
Thank you, Uncle. Jeffrey.
Yeah, with regards to, sorry, I'm still hot thinking about what those mullahs did. So the mullah regime and regime remnants clearly use things like weaponized illegal immigration to do assets in place and to carry out like terrorist attacks, very much drug fare and or influence operations. That's true. It's also very true, and this is why all of what you guys do is so important. You and Goldie and Armin and Tusi and everybody in this, in the battle of the narratives, the soft power battle space, right? Mullah regime didn't know how to handle the fact that their, soft power, their attempts at soft power to fragment things didn't work. So I think you should all take comfort in that. And also, I mean, that you could see them going after. They went after Nari online, right? They tried to sit there and go after you with all the stupid shit they said. Tusi had to leave London. So you're having impact. It's a very important and often overlooked element of that tragically defines contemporary conflict.
Okay, we'll have Sketch respond, and then we'll do the super chats.
Okay, I think Iran does have something to do with this, but they do it more through outside of Iran NGOs, through financing NGOs that get into this. I would say that the bloc that is kind of into this is doing it through the UN. The UN is providing, in 2005, they provided 1.4 billion, targeting 2.3 million people in 17 countries, right? And they plan, 2026 plan, 763 million, right? These are their targets to aid refugees and migrants, including in-transit people, includes food, security, shelter. This is a business, right? Even if you don't care about these people, if you're in the business of moving people and you don't care who they are, you don't care where they're going, you're just a person that take them like if they were packages from point A to point B, them pouring this money into this problem while acting like it's a problem just to fill their pockets. That's where the real problem is. I would be looking at the UN really hard. They've done it in Latin America, creating maps, creating bus routes. Another people that are involved is religious groups. Sometimes the Catholics get into this a lot. Other Christian religions get into it a lot. But it's not that the Catholic Pope is asking people to do that. It's NGOs around it that get into this type of money stuff because there's money in it. They're like leeches that like remoras that grab on to this funding. So because the UN is putting millions and millions and millions of dollars into this aid, they are assisting this migration. And let me see, UNHCR, UN itself, UN route mapping, they also provide maps, like telling people this is the route you have to take to get there. Right. So I would be looking hard into the UN, do some searches, use like 3 different AIs and probe it and look into what is aiding this migration. Where does the money come from? Where are the NGOs that pay for it? And you will find that a lot of it is coming from the UN. And the UN is an enemy of sovereign states because they claim, oh, we're here to protect everyone's sovereignty. So why are you aiding in the illegal immigration into the sovereign states? That's a literal violation of their borders. And these are your NATO partners. You can't claim you're the UN defender of these partnerships and also aid in the illegal invasion of these partners. I would be looking very hard on it, and I would believe these are violations of the UN Charter.
Thank you, Sketch. Armin, you want to read your super chats?
I will read, and then also I have updates from Iran, but I want to do that after, so that if you guys want to talk about the updates, you could like maybe put ones in the chat. So let me do the super chats first, but then I'll do the updates. Actually, the updates are related to the last super chat. So we first have Jedi. Jedi saying thank you again for the super chat, saying how about this? At the end, I'll review myself. I'm not an IRGC troll, but very pro monarchy and have been a supporter of you and Goldie since January. Oh, okay. Who is it in the chat, in the discussion group? That narrows it down. I think it's Noah. Okay, thank you, thank you, Jedi, for the super chat. And then we have Ida. Ida saying it's funny. I left the chat exactly when Armin was saying something along the lines of, "If you don't like it, get the fuck out of here." No, hey, Ida, that was not directed at you. We love you. Don't okay. That was a quote by the Islamic Republic to us, to people like me and Nara, and Noah. And then okay, so here's the last super chat, which is relevant to the updates that I have. Okay, I'm not gonna read your okay, your username is dumb motherfucker. Okay, so it's saying really worried about the news of a deal I keep seeing on the new Iran subreddit. It feels like Trump is looking for an exit for the World Cup and Cuba and etc. Um, Thank you so much for the super chat. I'm sure at some point we're going to get back to this in the discussion. And also later today, I have my live show with Ali. We will come back and discuss this over there as well. In about 40 minutes, we will, no, actually about 1 hour and 20 minutes, we will have that show. So we will get back to all those details soon. So make sure you have your bell notification on. But let me actually go through the updates regarding Iran. So we have new updates for the okay. So while we were speaking, these updates happened. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham warned that any deal ending the Iran conflict based on fears Tehran can keep threatening Hormuz and Persian Gulf oil infrastructure would cast Iran as a dominant regional force and become a nightmare for Israel over time. So this would give the suggestion that Senator Lindsey. So this is either there's two ways to look at this. Either you could see that maybe Lindsey Graham is worried that maybe he's heard some news that the deal is happening, because of the fears that the regime is going to be able to cause a lot of damage to the oil infrastructure in the Persian Gulf, um, and and also keep threatening the Strait of Hormuz. So he's warning against that. Or the other way to look at it is that Senator Lindsey Graham is part of the mind game to maybe get the Islamic Republic caught off guard. All right, so those are two ways to look at it. And then we had another update from regarding Iran saying, this is a quote from the Iran's ambassador to Islamabad. Well, the regime is an ambassador to Islamabad. So this he's being quoted by this is the quote. With conservative optimism, we can hope that if the other side is adequately committed, a positive stride is taking shape. Iran's ambassador to Islamabad said, adding that Pakistan's interior minister has congratulated him on the achievements of the negotiations in Tehran. So this is another news maybe suggesting that a deal is happening. Was that the only one? Yeah, I think I have wait, there was another one. Was that it? Did I only have two? I thought I had three. Let me refresh this page. Nope, I just had two. So those are the updates I have regarding what's happening in Iran. And we also got another super chat from Ida saying, I know Armin it was just really funny timing. Thank you, Ida. Thank you for the love and the support.